Hello, metallurgists. My name is Alan, and I'm back on Heavy Metallurgy today to review the new album from Runemagick. It's called Beyond the Cenotaph of Mankind, and it comes out April 28th, 2023 on Hammerheart Records. This is a band whose name I've heard here and there over time, but I've never investigated them. I was curious to check it out, and so I've dove in to figure out what exactly Runemagick is all about. Turns out that Runemagick is the brainchild of one Nicholas Rudolphson. You may recognize the name from a lot of different projects. He's been involved in many other bands over the years. Some notable ones include Death Witch, and he also played drums for Sacramentum on their three Killer albums from back in the 1990s. But here he's doing vocals and guitars for Runemagick, and to my surprise, the band has been very prolific. They've actually released 13 albums. This is their 13th about to come out. I had no idea they'd put out this many albums over time. Like I mentioned, it's a name I've seen here and there, but I've never really heard people talk about this band very much. And it's kind of surprising because it turns out Runemagick are playing a very solid style of death doom. And that's a style that's become more and more popular in recent years, given the success of bands like Hooded Menace, for example. As much hype as there's been around this particular style and some of those bands, I'm really amazed that nobody's talking about Runemagick because apparently they've been on this style for quite a while now. I don't know if they've just gone overlooked. It may be the fact that the band took about a 10-year hiatus. Beyond the Cenotaph of Mankind is the third album they've released since coming back after taking about a decade or so off. So what we have here again, straightforward death doom. If this is a subgenre that you enjoy, then Runemagick is a band you should definitely be checking out and have on your radar. The album includes 6 songs. The run-in time is 48 minutes. And so right away you can see that they're pacing things pretty well. This album never slows down and drags into funeral doom territory. It never picks up the pace and tries to be any kind of, blackened, thrash or other, subgenre of extreme metal. They keep it in their lane. That said, they do mix it up some as well. Songs can vary in tempo. There are sections here and there where the band can pick up the pace and be more aggressive. There are also lots of sections here and there where the band will slow down somewhat and develop a little bit more atmosphere and use some different sounds, some acoustics, more echo, and get sort of a gloomy ambiance developing. But again, it never gets too slow and it never gets too fast to stray outside of those death doom boundaries. So again, it's a very consistent and very well delivered album. With the band having been at it this long, you get the sense these are veteran musicians who know what they're doing, they know how to do it, they know what they want to do, and they're able to deliver it with relative ease. The songs on here are mostly hanging around the 7 to 8 minute mark. The only track that really runs a bit longer is the opener, Archaic Magic. It's the only song that makes it much above the 9-minute mark. Only one other track even comes in at barely over 9 minutes. So none of the songs drag out too long either. Each one, though, is given time to develop. None of the songs feel rushed. None of them feel hurried. That wouldn't work for death doom as a genre in the first place. You don't want that. This is a genre where the songs need some time to grow, some room to breathe, and Runemagick does that very well here. If there's one maybe knock against the album, I'd say it's the fact that while Runemagick does everything very good, there's nothing that they do outstanding on the album. There's not one or two must-hear tracks that are head and shoulders above everything else. There aren't, a lot of sections of, stand out, soloing, or, crushingly heavy riff that, really gets, stuck in your brain and, helps, drive that song home. All these songs, are unique from one another. They all have their own individual personality, their own flourishes in terms of, little things added here and there to make them stand out from each other, which is great. They don't run together whatsoever. It's just at the same time, nothing on the album, stands out as, the big moment, the crescendo, the part that you're going to put on your playlist or your sound clip, or that you're going to tell folks, oh, you got to check out, this solo or the second half of this song. In a way, they're a little bit like the B student in school. They're never quite at the top of the class, but they're doing everything just fine. They're not, dropping the ball here or there. It's not something you have to worry about them being inconsistent whatsoever. They just, don't quite shine through at the very top with what they've delivered in this case. That said, again, I'm not trying to crap on the album at all. I think it's very enjoyable. And given the quality that I'm hearing here, it only drives that point home that I mentioned before, that how is nobody talking about this band more? Why is this not being discussed among the leaders in the death doom subgenre of music? If this is a style you like, but like me, they just somehow slipped under your radar for all this time, highly recommend you check out Beyond the Cenotaph of Mankind. Give it a listen. I'll certainly be looking to dive into more of the band's back catalog. I can't really say how this album compares to their other albums. With such an extensive back catalog, I have not had time to explore it. So for those of you who are familiar with them, leave a comment down below and let others know. Is this, kind of another consistent album from the band? Is this a major deviation from things they've done in the past? I know there is a following for this band. For example, over on the Grizzly Butts review site, which a lot of folks are probably familiar with, they wax very effusive about some of the band's previous albums that I looked up while, researching the band a little bit. So some of you out there have been listening to this band. Some of you know more about them than I do. Please share that information, leave a comment down below, and let others know what albums to check out, and how consistent the band has been over time. But they seem to be an excellent Death Doom project, and hopefully Beyond the Cenotaph of Mankind will help bring them a bit more recognition, because they certainly seem to deserve it. Before we wrap this up, let's do a call to arms for another release that's coming out around this time. There's a new EP from Mournful Congregation. It's entitled The Exuviae of Gods Part 2, and it is scheduled to be released on May 26th, 2023. It'll be on both Osmose Records and on 20 Buck Spin. So I guess they're collaborating for releasing in different territories. A lot of folks are going to be familiar with Mournful Congregation. They've got quite a following in the funeral doom section. So we're going from death doom and slowing it down a little bit more here, getting into the funeral doom genre instead. This Exuviae of Gods Part 2 EP follows up on the Exuviae of Gods Part 1 EP that was released in 2022. The new EP includes just 3 songs, but still has a runtime of around 39, almost 40 minutes. Not too surprising for a funeral doom release. This is a genre known for very long and very slow songs, and that's kind of the same here. Something I've always liked about Mournful Congregation's take on funeral doom is that even though the songs are going to be long and slow and have some of the essential funeral doom qualities, they tend to have a stronger sense of melody, and they don't really focus as much on downtuning or dissonance in the guitars and bass. If anything, those parts of the music tend to be a little closer to traditional doom territory. It gives the songs a strong sense of melody. It keeps them from getting too bottom heavy, and it helps keep the songs moving a little bit better. It gives you something a little easier to latch onto than you might get in something, with the raw primitive thud of a Thurgothen, or the really dark abyssal qualities of some of the Vulcan's albums. Both good bands. I like their styles too. It's just that Mournful Congregation kind of has their own take on funeral doom. And I like the fact that, yes, they don't go all in trying to be as heavy and as slow as possible. The melodies, they keep the music moving quite well. So what do you get in these three tracks? Well, the first one, Heads Bowed, is actually a much older track that they are revisiting. This first appeared on the band's 1995 EP called An Epic Dream of Desire. So they've given it a facelift and rolled it back out so you can kind of compare it to what the band was doing back in their early days. It's a good take on the song, works quite well. The second song is entitled The Forbidden Abyssin. This is a pretty straightforward Mournful Congregation track. I am not, full disclaimer, really well versed in this band's entire catalog. I know some of their albums and I've enjoyed them. So The Forbidden Abyssin seems to sit in quite well with what they've done over time. The real standout on the EP, and why I think this one is worth a call to arms and picking up if you're looking for something to purchase, it's track number 3, which is called The Paling Crest. This one takes up the entire second side of the release. The one song here is in the 18-minute area, but it's a gorgeously put together song. There's a lot of acoustic instrumentation, but also a lot of heavy parts. They navigate those transitions extremely well. The song is just incredibly well crafted. Mournful Congregation's known for this within Funeral Doom fan circles in the first place. They put together really good songs. And this is, I think, my favorite song I've heard by the band to date. Again, I'm not the ultimate fanboy. I don't know their whole catalog inside and out. But from what I've heard, this song immediately struck me as something very special. So yeah, The Paling Crest, definitely a highlight on the EP. And I think a highlight, from the parts of their catalog I am familiar with. So just because it's a 3-track EP, don't overlook this particular release. When it comes out in late May, make sure it's on your list to check out, purchase on Bandcamp, or track down a physical copy, which again, they'll be available from Osmose and from 20 Bucks Spin. All right, so we've been in sort of, the deeper end of the Doom pool today, talking about some excellent Death Doom and a little bit of Funeral Doom as well. Some good heavy releases coming out from 2 veteran bands. Quality stuff in both cases. Check them out if you get the chance. That is going to do it for this review. Until next time, everybody take care. Check out the other great reviews here on the Heavy Metallurgy site. And as always, keep banging your head, even if you have to bang kind of slowly because, well, that's what you do with this style of Doom.